Hi, and welcome to The Curling Show, the podcast that brings you interviews with the sport's top athletes and the people who shape the game. Brought to you by Fit to Curl, a sport-specific guide to training for the world's greatest game, by 2010 Olympic gold medalist, 2011 GP Car and Home Players Champion, and Team Martin third, John Morris, with some assistance from me, Dean Gemmell. I started following the programs in Fit to Curl as I worked on the book with John, and today I'm fitter and healthier than I was 10 years ago. I feel better on the ice too. Get your copy of this best-selling book at fittocurl.com or at your favorite pro shop or curling equipment supplier. The owner of Rock Solid Productions and the 1996 Manitoba Mixed champion, Chad McMullan. Welcome to the Curling Show.
Well, thanks for having me, Dean. And good to get that shot in about the mixed early.
Oh, sure. You're dominant that year in the Bison area there, I think. I'm sure. But Jill Officer, I think, played third for you, didn't she?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jill's a good friend from way back, and I think we still have the record for the youngest team ever at the mix with that squad.
Really? How old were you guys?
I think our average age was 20 at the time. I would have been the elder statesman at 21 or 22, whatever it was. 21, I think.
Well, you knew the key to mixed. You have to get a good third, so that's what you did, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Jill was. We knew back then that she was amazing, and obviously the world knows now.
All right, Chad. Well, first, there are probably some people out there who, if they didn't see the 1996 mixed, may not know who you are. Most people do in the curling world, but the reality, of course, that even people who don't know you, if they watch even a little bit of curling each winter, they've seen you in your commercial for the Capital One Rocks and Rings program about 700,000 times these last couple of years. Has it become a relief when curling season ends and you don't have to see yourself on TV anymore?
It is, to be quite honest. I kind of cringed by the end of this season. I'd have curling on in the background and I'd hear my voice and just think, oh, here we go again. But I think I was fortunate that I don't get the normal backlash that the companies might, just because this is more of a good cause than anything. So it would a little tougher for people to complain, but definite overkill by the end of it.
No, I mean it's for a great cause. It's a great program. So I don't think I think it was great that it was on all the time. It was just it was interesting. But Chad, I know from those commercials that the goal of the program is to get the kids to have fun curling. As you can hear by the screaming and yelling, they're enjoying it. We want them to think of curling as fun when they do have a chance to try the sport. Is that the best way to sum up the Capital One Rocks and Rings program?
You nailed it, and we're already talking about doing a new commercial this fall, so I might have to fly you up here to narrate for us.
All right. So that's really what it's about. What do you say to people who can't make the connection between kids and gyms with plastic curling rocks and actual curling?
You know what? There's a lot of people get it. Most people get it, I should say, and most people are pretty excited about it and the results that we've got. You do get the odd person that says, well, they're not learning curling, they're not learning the technical side of things. But we purposely have avoided that. I mean, we want this to be all about them having fun and doing it later when they get a better chance at getting out on the ice, something like that. So I mean, we're not teaching interns, we're not teaching outturns, we're just making it fun for them, and we want it to be cooler as well. They do this every year throughout their elementary school years, and they come out of it thinking curling's a lot cooler and a more normal and mainstream thing to do than the perception that it has around it right now. Yeah,
I think that's the point, right? That is exposure to the game. Eugene Ritzik was on this podcast once, and he talked about how the biggest challenge for curling was that it's not like baseball or football where you can just go in the front yard or the backyard and toss something around, right? It needs very specific equipment and everything else. So, in lieu of that specific equipment, giving these kids some chance to at least understand the game makes a big difference.
Absolutely, and I think things are going to change with the Olympics and the impact that they've had, but it's a major hurdle to overcome. It's exactly that. I mean, I know I say it all the time that if your parents didn't play the sport, you don't get into the sport. The kid doesn't get into it, and that goes hand in hand with that. I mean, if your parents play, then you have access to a curling club. If they don't play, you have no access because they have no idea where to even take you. So they're kind of hand in hand, but hopefully it'll change soon. But right now it's a pretty expensive endeavor, obviously.
So where is the program happening, and how's it doing?
Right now, we're pretty much across Canada. We're adding new regions all the time. This is just the end of our 3 years, our first 3 years right now, and we're coast to coast, Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, just to rhyme a bunch of them off, Winnipeg, Ottawa, Toronto, Halifax, Charlottetown, St. John's, and when I say these areas, those are the bases for a lot of our instructors, and they'll go way outside of those cities as well. I mean, we've got instructors in Alberta, Manitoba that'll drive, that'll do tours, that'll do 3-day tours way up north. So the reach is a lot more extensive than just the cities that we're in. And of course, looking to add more next year, and even this past year, we even got up to none of it twice, and managed to deliver the program and plant some seeds up there, and hopefully we can affect things in a positive way there too.
I think that was expansive, not expensive, just in case someone who missed that there. But how does a school or get involved with it? I mean, do they is it through school boards? Does individual schools contact you, or do they hear about it from other schools? Or if there's someone out there with a school, how would they get Rocks and Rings in their own school?
Yep, the best thing for them to do is to head to our website, which is rocksandrings.com, and all the information is there and how they contact us to set it up. In terms of who we're targeting, it's basically the teachers themselves. It's not the boards or anything like that. I mean, they'll help us promote they believe in the program, and they'll help us promote the program by giving us access to different teacher conferences and things like that. But ultimately, it comes down to one of the teachers in the school really wanting the program in the school and getting the approval and getting us signed up. And so, I mean, a lot of that comes from that commercial. And beyond that, it also comes from word of mouth. I mean, we've got a very high retention rate in terms of schools re-signing on the following years and spreading the word. I mean, we get a ton of those emails as well saying that, teacher over at school down the street loved it and told us we should have it, and next thing you know, we're at their school too. So it's been great in that regard. And
I imagine you'd eventually like to take this beyond Canada.
Absolutely, yeah. We're pretty much ready to go. It's just a matter of finding the right system and the right structure. We'd have to change the business model a little bit, and a lot of that comes down to the lack of being able to have a commercial that's viewed by 1 million people, 700,000 times, as you say.
Yeah.
So we've got to get around that, and once we can figure out a way to get around that and address the marketing costs that would obviously increase in other areas, then we can get off and running.
Well, you've just told about 8 people through this podcast, so we got that going for us. So.
Nice. All right, U.S., here we come.
You got my 8 listeners out there; they're excited. 8 international listeners. No, I don't know, more than that, I'm sure. But anyways.
I'm sure.
Hey, one thing, Chad, we're hearing a lot about these days is about the challenges that our sport faces in rural areas where small-town clubs are often closing. I'm not so sure. Well, I actually think it's not so much a curling problem, but an urban-rural problem. But there's an article in the Globe and Mail on May 23rd by Les Perro, I guess, covering the story of a town in Saskatchewan that was really walking away from curling, and yet I think there are good stories in urban areas, including Toronto, where they've lost a lot of curling ice, but the clubs that are there are booming, aren't they?
Yeah, the clubs here in Toronto are packed. I mean, this city really does need some more ice, and it's not normally considered a curling center, that's for sure. But I've got to agree with you 100% on the rural issue. It's not a curling issue so much as it is just the general rural urban. I mean, the migration. I mean, farms are getting bigger. So there's less people in those areas. I think that's just a general migration, not specifically away from curling. So sad to see. I mean, my mother grew up in a town of 250 people, and I've curled on their natural 3-sheet ice shed many a time, and so it's sad to see, but I think it's just the reality of the world today.
Yeah, I mean, it is sad to see, but I think, yeah, you're right. It's just, like I said, the reality of the population shifts. And I think all of us have good memories, if we've curled a bit, have good memories of curling in small towns. So I hope some of those clubs continue to thrive. You're from Manitoba, like you mentioned, but you're based in Toronto. Are we starting to see the curling population in that city at least inch a bit closer to reflecting the ethnic diversity that's there?
Well, I mean, that's what Rocks and Rings is all about. I mean, that's why we started that program. By going to the schools, we reach everyone. So it's not a matter of people finding us. We take it to them. And I definitely think it's changing. It's just difficult because of where we are. I mean, to be blunt, the sport is so incredibly white. How could you expect someone that is not to walk into a place that's named a club and gives off a private sound right there, private sounding name, and expect them to fit in, and it's just going to take some time. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some effort. And I know the CCA is doing a lot up here in regards to that, to try to get the sport more reflecting the population here. And it's going to change, but it's going to take time, and it might take some of the immigrants' home countries accepting the sport a little bit more as well to help fulfill that. But it's going to take some work, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair assessment. It's a generation away, I'm sure, at least. Got to get Neil Mungle on television coverage more often, taking photos. He helps.
Yeah, that's right. Definitely, exactly. I think. Yeah, it's changing. You're seeing more of it in hockey up here as well, and like you said, I think it's a bit of a generational thing. It's not going to happen at once, but it's definitely going to happen. And I've met with different individuals in Toronto that have the same interests, and just trying to figure out ways that you can make it happen. But right now it's going to take some creative thinking to basically get into those groups. I mean, a lot of the new immigrants to Toronto come from countries that don't have any ice sports at all, let alone curling. So
right.
How would they have any idea what this is about? So yeah, it's going to happen. It'll take time, but it's going to happen.
Speaking of countries that aren't exactly winter sports hubs, you were down in Brazil sometime late last summer to run a curling clinic event with Mark Schurik went down with you, I think. And tell me about that and the strange popularity of curling in that country.
Yeah, we had Mark Schurik go down there, and him and I. This was a pretty bare bones from our end, but him and I worked on the ice, worked on converting it. We had Lynn Githmart come in from Norway. And we had Brian Chick and Holly Nickel from Toronto come down as our instructors, and it was phenomenal. I mean, it was just an absolutely amazing trip to see what was going on and to see the potential for the sport outside of this country. Two things jumped out at me. I mean, one, we generated $1.8 million in media exposure, and that's U.S. dollars for the client, which was Johnson & Johnson. It was their Neutrogena Norwegian formula brand, which explains why they wanted Lynn there. And so not only just the media attention that we got, and every major player was out, it was unbelievable. But beyond that, also the people that came out, we had 1,400 people came and tried curling and went in the little attached spa, the Neutrogena spa next door. And the people that came out were all between the ages of 20 and 30, 35. There was, you could count on one hand how many were over that. So there was no stereotype, no preconceived stereotype, no baggage, nothing like that. It was an Olympic sport, and young people came out, and a lot of them came out repeatedly, and they just absolutely are in love with the sport down there. They have no idea what it's all about, but they're all watching it on TV. Their Olympic numbers are crazy.
It's incredible. I mean, even when Jerry Gertz has put OCT events on Ustream there's people from Brazil watching those. I mean,
they've got some diehard bloggers out there right now that are doing as much or more than Canadian ones, and definitely more than others in the rest of the world. But I mean, to me, this is the exciting part. I mean, Canada, there's definitely room for growth in the sport here in Canada, but it's outside where the real growth can be, and the Olympics are just driving that. I know what happened in Brazil was this last Olympics, the Vancouver Games, was the first one available on a major carrier down there, and that's what really sparked the whole thing. So the whole Winter Games themselves were well watched, but curling was the number one sport, and it was pretty wild.
I actually think that curling's crossed the threshold here, where it's not so much about needing to promote the game anymore, but we still need to promote the game, but I think our challenge is going to be facilities and capacity, and I've written about that in the Curling News recently. But to me, it goes back to what Eugene Ritchik said, that it's a tough game, to introduce people to without the right facilities, and until we get those, we're going to be in trouble. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, where are you going to go? You're seeing a huge boom in the U.S., especially in the southern states, the coastal states. The generally hotter climate states, but they're all playing in arenas, and I've talked about this before, and they've got to get to dedicated facilities at some point, and it's a really tough step, obviously, to go from that once a week arena rental to sinking a few $1 million into a facility and calling it your own. But But it's got to happen. It's just a matter of where's that money going to come from.
Now, you also run something called Rock Solid Outings, which runs corporate or group events at curling clubs in the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area. Now, I know you even that you're up against some capacity issues, finding ice and everything else to run those on. But for other clubs out there, not that you want to give away your trade secrets or anything, Chad, but I'm the sort of the corporate events guy at my own club here in New Jersey, and I've seen how well events can work and what I think some of the keys to running good corporate events are. What do you think?
Well, I mean, number one, here in Toronto, Toronto is a great spot for corporate events in Canada, simply because of all the corporate headquarters that are here. Plus, that's combined with the unfamiliarity of the game, if that's a word, infamiliarity. You go into other big cities, and people know curling. People know someone that curls. They can all go to the club. They can set something up. Here in Toronto, it's not like that. But the problem is the availability of ice. There's not enough. I can't take a corporate group out after work. They have to do it during the day, or else nothing, because every single club in this area has a league running in the evenings, and they can't sacrifice that. So it's very difficult. But I mean, beyond that, clubs need to raise their fees. They need to raise corporate outing fees. I think there's a perception. The people that come in love it, and if you had a sign-up sheet at the end of every corporate event, every club could probably grab a few members right there on the spot. But I think there's also an issue because clubs charge so little that it's actually a negative. I think they're doing it thinking that they're going to get more people in and potentially more members. But the reality is, a lot of people believe that they're getting what they pay for, and if that price is too low, then they're not getting. That's what they're getting for it. So they're compared to other areas, other corporate outings, it's far too inexpensive at this point.
I'd agree with that. I mean, we upped our own rates here in New Jersey, and I mean, we have the same problem you have in Toronto. We only have one club, but we have leagues every night, so we really can't run outings. Our latest outing is 4 to 6, but you're right about the fees. I mean, people are, if it's dirt cheap, they think it's not going to be that good. And what I've found too is that you really have to make sure I tend to not really focus on turning them into members, just turning them into somebody who's going to come back the next year for another corporate event. If you grab a few members, great, but have them have the best 2 hours they've had in a while, and you'll get a lot more outings and book repeat ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the way the club model is built here, it's all based on leagues and members, and really any club in the GTA, if they canceled one of their nights of curling and said we're just going to have this night open for corporate events, I mean, even if they if they use that 25% of the time, they'd make more than a yearly league would make. And we've run numbers and explored it, and it doesn't take much to recoup it for corporate dollars at the proper rates, that's for sure. And so, I mean, just from a straight, forget the membership, just from a straight business model, it just makes a heck of a lot of sense. But at this point, it's pretty tough for a club to go and cancel a league or turn someone away.
Yeah, it is tough when you're at that spot. But if you're a new club opening up, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to reserve one night. There are a few new clubs springing up in various places.
Absolutely.
Hey, your old teammate Pete Stesky is running the Capital One Celebrity Bonspiel. When is that? Next weekend, I think, isn't it? What do you know about that? Yeah. Are you playing in it?
I'm not playing in it. Unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town that weekend, so the timing wasn't great. Oh. But we've got Rocks and Rings is a bit of a part of it in that we're doing a Rocks and Rings Junior Clinic on the first day. But this is the second year for that event, and they've got Ian and the gang over at Capital One involved, and it's just a phenomenal event. I think they exceeded everyone's expectations with the money they raised last year, and I think they're shooting for even more this year. The lineup of skips they've got is just incredible, and I think this is Pete's way to finally get to play with the big names.
There you go. He's got to get in there somehow now. He was retired last year actually, but he can talk his way into anything.
He'd probably tell you he's been retired for many years. I mean, he's been playing with me for the last few. So.
All right, we finished with a run back, Chad. I give you a topic. You give me your thoughts in 1 to 3 words.
Sounds good.
Fake Kevin Martin on Twitter.
Hilarious. I would love to know who it is.
So would I. I thought it was Pete for a while, actually, but I don't think it is.
If you knew Pete's technology skills, you know it's not him.
Yeah, some people thought it might be me. If it was me, I don't think I could hold the secret any longer. It's too good.
Yeah, exactly.
Man U's 19th Premier League title.
I don't even want to go there. That's I'm an Arsenal supporter, so I've tried to block out this whole season. They're still on 18, if you ask me.
Between you and Carey's and Korab and Hames on among my Facebook friends, it's a lot of Premier League stuff I see there. But I know it's killing you. The new Canadian curling trials qualifying system.
I haven't looked at it too in depth, but it looks pretty solid to me. I haven't heard complaints from the players, so it must be pretty decent.
Wayne Madot, third for Team Howard.
Going to be very interesting. I think he'll add a spark. Richie Hart, one of the greatest players ever, so I don't think anything changes there, but he might just add a new spark to the team.
The Kathy Overton Clapham's new lineup.
Not familiar enough to comment.
All right. It looks good, actually. I think they'll be good. Young, but good. Heath McCormick.
Heater.
Yeah.
What about Heater?
Yeah, I know. I do know Heater now. Owner of the best nickname in curling, I think. But you played with Heater for how many years?
I'm trying to think. Was it 1 or 2? Here's my memory.
You told me in an email. He said, "Well, I drove Chad right out of the game, so it was 1 year or 2 years. 2 years is all it took, I guess."
Or maybe I drove him all the way down to the U.S.
Yeah, right. That's true. Now he's slumming down here with us. All right, and finally, Chad, the Thrashers moving to Winnipeg, maybe.
Maybe. Very, very excited. The reason I'm missing the Celebrity Field next weekend is because we're going down to Atlanta to visit some friends, and I'm planning on taking my Winnipeg Jets hat with me and see what happens.
Could Gary Bettman be any more of a, you know what word I want to use? Starts a number of words that start with D.
I think he's been public enemy number 1 in Winnipeg since 1996. So,
unbelievable. Now he's like sort of saying it's not a done deal, right? I don't get it. But
I don't think even if he showed up and delivered the team on a platter himself, they still wouldn't like him in Winnipeg.
I tell you, if somebody from Winnipeg wants to come down and go see him in Manhattan, they can stay at my place. You're welcome to it. We'll go in and march on them. All right, Chad, that's all I've got for the run back, I think. Anybody you want to mention? I usually let teams mention their sponsors. Since you're not playing regularly, you can give me all your websites.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, rocksandrings.com, rocksolidproductions.ca. That's the 2 main websites right there, and just a big thanks to Capital One, the Dominion, and all of our curling governing body partners out there.
All right, thank you, Chad. Enjoy the rest of the summer.
Man.
Or enjoy the...
You too.
Well, I guess the summer started. I figure Memorial Day or Victoria Day, it starts it.
Exactly.
That's Chad McMullan on The Curling Show. Enjoy the summer beach parties, but remember, curling season will be here before you know it. Start training now, and you'll feel a lot better when you hit the ice next year. You can buy Fit to Curl at fittocurl.com and at Better Curling Pro Shops. Thanks for listening. Here's some pudding.
Jim Beeman, no 2 grains of sand are alive. Sow the seed, reap the speed. Angels wing on a Chinese kite, yeah.